Well, hey there, kiddos. Here's the video for your topic 2, solving equations. You need to take notes as we go along with the notes that match with this, and then you will take a post-assessment after this to make sure that you're really getting it and understanding, and then we'll work on some reviews. So we're going to solve some equations using inverse operations and things that we know. So this first one, I have 4 plus 2x equals negative 5 minus x. Now, so I've got variables on both sides. The goal is to get all of the variables on one side so that then you can get it all by itself so that you can find out what it equals. I like to always move the smallest variable that I can see so that I can hopefully keep things positive if possible. So this negative x is smaller than this positive 2x. So I'm going to add x to this side and add x to this side so that I can get them all on the same side. So that gives me 4 plus 3x equals negative 5. Well, now this is an equation like you've seen before, and I want to get the x by itself. I've got rid of this 4 by subtracting 4 on both sides, which gives me 3x equals negative 9. And then to get x all alone, I'm going to have to divide by 3, which gives me that x equals negative 3. So that is your answer. Now, if you're going to check your answer, you're going to plug this back into here. And so we'll do 4 plus 2 times negative 3, and it needs to equal negative 5 minus negative 3. And I would type that into my calculator just like it's written to see that this equals negative 2 on both sides, and so it does work. So look at number 2. It's the same kind of problem. Again, I've got variables on both sides, but I also have this thing that looks like a fraction. So I've got something in a denominator, and I want to clear that denominator before I solve. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply everything by 2 so I can clear this denominator. So I have 6x plus 4 on the left, and then on the other side I have to multiply both pieces here by 2, so this becomes 2x minus 12. Just like on this problem, I'm going to take the smaller x and I'm going to move it to the other side. So to cancel out 2x, I'm going to subtract 2x. So now I have 4x plus 4 equals negative 12. And then I'm going to subtract this 4 because I'm trying to get x all alone. So I have 4x equals negative 16. And then I'm going to have to divide by 4 to find out that x equals negative 4. And to check it again, I would plug it back into here and make sure that the left side equals the right side, and I would just use my calculator to do that. Number 3, there's a lot going on with number 3. I've got variables on both sides, I have parentheses, I have lots happening. So we're going to simplify this before we do anything. So I have 4y plus 7 is going to stay the same over here because there's nothing to simplify. But on this side, I've got to get rid of parentheses by doing the distributive property. So 2 times 2y makes 4y. And then 2 times 5 is going to make 10 plus 37. And so I'm going to combine these two numbers so that I have the same thing on both sides. I'm going to have 4y plus 7 equals 4y plus 47. And then I'm going to combine my y's. Now there's not a smaller y here. They're both the same, which tells me they're probably going to cancel each other out when I subtract from 4y on both sides. And sure enough, they do. So I end up with something that says 7 equals 47, which is not a true statement. So this equation has no solution. So I just draw the little 0 with the line through it, because there is no answer that would make that true. So now let's talk about this in terms of word problems. So it asks us to define a variable, set up an equation, and then solve. By defining a variable, it means tell me what the variable is and what does it represent. So a house painting company charges $376 plus $12 per hour. Another company charges $280 plus $15 per hour. So the first thing I have to do is define a variable. Well, the thing that I know is that I have per hour happening. So I'm going to say H equals hours. I also know that I'm going to have a total cost too. We'll deal with that in a minute. But part A says, how long is a job for which both companies will charge the same amount? Well, if they charge the same amount, that means that they are equal. And so what I want is for the first company to equal the second company. Well, the first company is $376 plus $12 per hour. And I want that to equal the second company, which is $280 plus $15 per hour. Now to figure out how long this job is, I have to solve this equation, and I've written kind of big, so I'm going to have to stretch this out. But I want to get all my h's together on one side, and just like I did up here, I'm going to move the smaller one to the other side. So the 12h is smaller, so I'm going to subtract 12h from both sides, which gives me 376 equals 280 plus 3h. So then I'm going to subtract 280. And if I get my calculator, I find that equals 96 is equal to 3h. And to find out how many hours that would be, if I divide by 3, I get that it takes 32 hours for them to charge the same amount. Now, what will the cost be in 32 hours? You have a choice. You can plug it into House Company 1 or House Company 2. It doesn't matter because at 32 hours they're equal. So I'm just going to plug that in. 280, I'm going to use the second one, plus 15 times 32. And I will just type that in my calculator just like I wrote it. And I will find out that that equals $760. So at 32 hours, they both charge $760, and that's where they are the same. Now, number 5. The measure of an angle is 75 less than twice its supplement. Find the measure of each angle. This is a problem where we've struggled with this, and the reason why we've struggled with this is, number 1, we won't draw a picture, and number 2, even if we do draw a picture, we don't label it correctly. Supplement means 180 degrees. It means that I have 2 angles, not 1, but 2 angles that when I put them together make 180. A 180 degree angle is a straight line. It's just a straight angle like this. But to be a supplement, I have to have 2 angles. It can't be supplementary if there aren't 2 of them. When I have 2 angles like this, they only give me information for one of them. They tell me that the measure of one angle is 75 less than twice the supplement. Well, the supplement is the other angle, and we're going to call that x. We don't know what it is. It's got to be x. You always need to have variables representing both angles. So here's one of them. The other one is 75 less than twice the supplement. Well, that means 2x minus 75, because remember, less than is a flip-flop word, and so it switches the places of these with the on the minus sign. So if I add these together, I'll get 180. So 2x plus x makes 3x, then minus 75 equals 180. If I solve this, it'll give me x, which will tell me how big this angle is. So I'm going to add 75. So I have 3x equals 255. And to get what x is, now I'm just going to divide by 3. And so x is equal to 85. So this angle right here is 85 degrees. Now you have 2 choices to find the second angle. You can either plug 85 into here and find out what it equals, or since I know that together they make 180, I can just subtract from 180. I'm going to plug in, so I'm going to do 2 times 85 minus 75, and I'm going to type that in my calculator. And I get that this angle is 95 degrees. So that's the 2 angles, and if I add them together, 95 plus 85, sure enough, it equals 180. I know I'm correct. There's the measure of each angle. So here are your 2 answers. One angle is 95, the other's angle is 85. Do not forget to draw the picture, and always make sure that if it's a supplement or complement that you have 2 angles making that up, and that you label them both. So now we're going to talk about some literal equations where they ask us, they give you an equation with several variables, and they ask you to just solve for one of the variables, which means get that variable by itself. So number 6 here wants us to solve this equation, A equals 1/2 BH, which is the area formula for a triangle, by the way, for B. So they want us to get this B all by itself. So I've got to get rid of everything else that's with the B. Well, I'm going to start with the 1/2 because I don't want to deal with a fraction in my problem. To do that, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 to cancel out this fraction. Over here, this makes 2A. On this side, the 1/2 is canceled, but I still have B times H. Well, I still want this B right here all by itself, so I've got to get rid of this H. Well, this is multiplication, B times H, so to undo multiply, I divide by the variable that isn't the B. And so I get that 2A divided by H equals B. So now B is eliminated, or isolated, not eliminated. B is isolated, it's by itself. That's what we wanted to happen. This is your answer. So number 7, we want to solve for C. So I want to get this C by itself. Well, this has a fraction, but it also has this plus 32. Doesn't matter what I do first. Either way, I've got to get rid of that fraction, just like before. So just like in the last problem, I'm going to start by multiplying both sides by 5 so I can cancel the fraction out. So this gives me 5F. And then over here, this 5 will cancel out this 5, so I have a 9C left. But I also have to do 32 times 5 because I have to multiply all parts of that side by 5. So that becomes 160. Now I still want C by itself, so I've got to get rid of this plus 160. So I'm going to subtract 160 from here and from here. So I have 5F minus 160 is equal to 9C. Well, to get C by itself, I'm going to divide by 9. And I have to divide both of these parts by 9 as well. Well, 5 divided by 9 is not a very nice number, so I'm going to leave it as 5/9 F. And 160 divided by 9 is also not a very nice number. It's not very nice at all. So I'm also going to leave that over 9. And that gives me C. Now, if you don't want to write it separate like this, you could have written it as 5F minus 160 all divided by 9 would give you C. This is the same thing. One is split apart, one is not, but they mean the same thing. So number 8. They want us to solve for y, so we're good at this. Getting y by itself is not something we struggle with a whole lot, but that's what they're asking for. So the first thing that has to happen is we've got to distribute to get rid of parentheses. So 3 times y becomes 3y, and 3 times 12 becomes 36, and this equals 2x. Well, I want to get y by itself, so I've got to get rid of this minus 36 here, so because I want that alone. So now I have 3y equals 2x minus 36. And then I'm going to have to divide by 3. I'm going to have to divide both parts by 3. So y becomes, 2 divided by 3 is not a nice number, so it becomes 2/3 x. But 36 divided by 3 is going to be 12, so I have minus 12. So this is that equation solved for y. So 2 more. This one we want to solve for p, so we want this p by itself. Well, this entire side of this problem is all multiplication, p times r times t. Well, to undo multiplication, we divide. And since it's all multiply, I can divide by the two things that aren't a p. So if I divide by the r and the t, I can cancel them both out at the same time. And I have to do the same over here. So I get that I divided by rt is equal to p. Number 10, they want us to solve for m, so we want to get this m by itself. Now, the thing that gets confusing about this problem is the Ke here is one variable. It stands for kinetic energy, which is something you'll learn about later on in a science class, but it's one variable. It's going to go together. But like we did in number 6 and number 7, we want to clear out our fraction before we do anything else. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So I get 2 Ke. This cancels my fraction, and now I have mv squared. Well, I want m by itself, so I have to divide both sides by the v squared. So I get 2ke divided by v squared equals n. And that is how we solve equations. You have solving regular equations, and then you also have solving literal equations. You need to go grab the post assessment for topic number 2 and start your practice.